Okay, this video is a more in-depth video on how to reload shotgun cartridges. What I mean by reloading is actually a shot shell that has already been fired off to reload with new powder, new shot and new wad. So this is more of an in-depth video to how to set up basically your loader. Now a loader is designed to give you different weights and measurements when loading. Inside the top of my Lee Loadall, I've got different types of bushes that get put into this area here. You undo the front with the screws, you pull the bar out, and you select the size that you want. Now the size you'd normally get in your Lee Loadall a guide as to what size bushes will give you what weight, etc, etc. Now before you do that, you need to select the correct shell that you want to reload. Now I've got a book here, and I do suggest that everyone gets a book before reloading, because you need to have the specific data required to have a safe load. If you get it wrong, if you use a hot primer with a hot powder, you'll probably end up blowing the barrels of your gun. Now you don't really want to be doing that, especially when you've got yourself a new one. So the best thing to do is get yourself a book. The powders that you use will have a website on the powder that you've purchased, and that website will give you safe data on how to load that powder with what wad, with what primer, and what shell. Now if your book, I mean this book here is more designed for the American market. You've got a lot of Federal, a lot of Remington, a lot of Winchester. Well, we use a lot of Game Bore, Ely and various other cartridges in the UK. So to be able to pair our cartridges up with the American makes, now your base wad, which is the fixed wadding that you get in the end of a cartridge, really does need to match those that are shown in your book. So the best thing to do is you cut right down the centre of your shell, all the way through the metal and everything, and you will see basically this sort of thing. So you will see roughly the base wad. Then you can then compare it to what you've got here. Now this one here is a Cheddite plastic wad. Now that matches very closely to the Ely. So that's what I've done. Although I've got Cheddite shells, spent shells and new shells that have never been fired, I can at least pair them up and see exactly that we've got the correct base wad. Because obviously if the base wad is a lot thicker, you can't get as much material inside. So your weights and your gauges on your charts is going to be totally wrong if your base wad's wrong. So it's so important to get your base wad correct before you even carry out reloading the shell. Obviously if you look at the one above, if you decided to reload that, now that base wad is damn sight thicker than that one there. So the problem you've got there is the material. It's the force that's going to be used to get the shot out of your cartridge. It's going to be that much more greater because you've crammed more in. So it then makes a dangerous load. So it's really important that you do get the correct shell and the correct data to load your cartridge. Okay, so when I say about hot primers, hot powder, now it's advised that when you use a powder that you must use the opposing strength. So if you've got a hot powder, use a mild primer. If you use a mild primer, a mild powder, use a hot primer. That way you get the charge off at the right speed. Now, calculating how much or what size shot you want, I've got a density calculator that you can download off the internet. And basically I'm using size 6 shot. I can't really zoom in enough for this chart, but basically size 6 shot, to gauge for whatever whatever cylinder you're going to be using, the chokes that you're going to be using in your gun, you basically need to know, say you was using cylinder, a size 6 shot with 1 and 1/8 ounce of load, you will be getting at 20 yards, you'll be getting 253 shots in a diameter of a 30-inch pattern. At 25 yards, it then goes down to 238, and so on. So when you get to about 40 yards, within a 30-inch pattern, you'll only be getting 152 shots within that pattern. So it's all you know, relative to what you want to shoot, whether you're doing clays, whether you're doing game. I mean, buckshot, obviously that's one solid load, and hopefully at 55 yards that shot will still be within that 30-inch diameter. So I was talking about on my other videos actually resizing your shot shells before you load them up. Excuse my fingers, I'm trying to undo a piece of string. Basically I've got a resizing die, if I can get the blimmin' string off. Do bear with me. Alright, there you go. Should have done that before the video. Right, so this resizing die basically resizes the brass. When the brass has been fired, the actual brass, when the shell's been fired, the actual brass actually flares out. So if you've got a standard gun that hasn't got ejectors, then it's not going to be too much of a problem, because that shell could be reloaded again, and it is tailor-made for your gun. But this one's been fired. I'm going to stick it in the gun itself. Fits nicely, that you think, yeah, great, goes in well. But when you close that, they will jam. I've found that they do jam. So I do advise that, especially with this new gun, whether it needs resetting up, I don't know, because it hasn't been serviced yet. But I've found so far that the cartridges themselves do need resizing before you put them back in. So, like I say, to work out your powder sizes, it is a good idea. Your powder weights, it is a good idea to get yourself a little machine to measure it. This is sort of like the measurements that you'd use for weighing gold, and some drug people would use this sort of thing. So basically, the good thing to do is, if you've got, say, a certain weight that you need to stick to, certain grains, you then select that to your grain that you need. You put your die in. So I've selected a 171. Can't remember the exact amount of grains at the moment. But so basically, let me just discharge the shot, and I'll show you what I mean by measuring him off. Right, do bear with me. Stick that in there. Okay, let's get this shot out of the way. Right. Obviously you don't do it that way round. Shot just never goes in first. It's always the powder. So I'm just going to see what powder I've got. So I'm going to bring that down slightly, and I'm just going to let that powder out. Let's just see it will trickle out. So that amount of powder there, that you've got there should weigh exactly what you want it to, so that the actual bush that you've put in for powder should be exactly the same. Now on average I'll probably do 5 test loads just to see that the good averages are about right, so you're getting exactly the right amount. Same sort of thing with your shot. You would then weigh that. Obviously you'd zero the machine with an empty shell on it. Put your shot inside, reweigh it, and it should be 1 1/8 of an ounce, which is what I've got this loaded up at. I think it's about 31 and a half grams. Yeah, so it's quite a big load. It's nearly a 32 gram load, which is good for game. I shoot a lot of game, you see. So pop all your stuff back in, making sure that you don't decontaminate the other side. You don't want flakes of powder in your shot side and vice versa. Clearly you don't want shot in your powder side. Like I say about the primers, here I'm using a CCI primer. Now it's a mild primer that I've got there. No, sorry, a hot primer, because I've got a mild powder. I use that to get the loads that I like using with the Cheddites and the Ely shells. Other things to note, what can we add to this video? Your wads. Wads are really important. You've got to have the correct wad, at least match it up, get the correct size that the recipe is showing you. I mean, this wad here is a Cheddite wad, that's what I'm using. Cheddite do come in totally different size wads. The plastic, what they call it, not photodegradable, so they do degrade in sunlight, so they're not going to sit around forevermore amen, like a big lump of plastic. So these do break down. They are friendly. Now there's totally different sizes there. I think mine matches up to the size 4, which is this one here. So that does match up with that one there. So you've got to know exactly what Cheddite or what wads that you're going to use for your setup. So basically this video is to stress, do get a book, do get your recipes, don't just grab any old shell that you've just fired and chuck nails and ball bearings and cat's legs, whatever you're going to use. Do not just load anything. Be sensible, get it done properly, get yourself a book full of excellent information, loads of information on everything, weighing things, clay traps, wads. I mean, these books are available everywhere. Even in the back of the book, you've got recipes for all kinds of things. So it shows you everything. It takes a long time to get it right, but do get it right. Safe shooting.